Hi, this is Arik
and Aurelia.
And we're the Xanders, and we're talking about life and important things.
Or so we think. We'll let you be the judge of that.
All right, so I'm so happy to be sitting here with you today, this beautiful spring day in April. And, there's a lot of things to talk about, I feel, and a lot of people have a lot of questions, and we maybe have answers.
Because, we are quarantined. Let's not forget that. We have social distancing, and we are lucky that we can sit so close together because we're married and we live in one household.
Mm-hmm. And this has been a project that's been on our minds for a long time because Aurelia and I will just talk about things and then, just like uncover all kinds of great wisdoms and whatnot. So I had the idea that we should record it, and then Aurelia thought we should do like a podcast or something out of it. So here we are.
And do our best. So, because my problem is, when people always say, just write a blog or do this or do that, then I don't know what I should write about. I have nothing to say. And so then we figured out that unprompted, I really don't know what to say. But as soon as somebody asks me a question, I kind of have an opinion. I am known to be opinionated. So here we are.
But are they really opinions?
Well, in terms of if you say opinions is some information that I gathered somewhere, something that I read, or like an opinion piece, which is mostly judgment, then no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, let's just get it out in the open. You're a Virgo, and one of the qualities of Virgo is being opinionated, being critical, perhaps being judgmental or whatnot. And, these are, of course, the degraded qualities. But I feel like, you don't really have opinions like how most people understand opinions to be.
That's right. I definitely am a Virgo. And yes, I am opinionated, and I'm also critical. There is no doubt about it. However, the way most people are opinionated is that their mind is closed. Mine is not. Of course, living here in the real world, quotes, for real, we have to have an opinion because otherwise we're just floating in outer space. Like, our body comes with an opinion. Now, the difference between my opinion and somebody else's opinion is that my opinion is always open for discussion.
Yeah, that's key. I know that sometimes, like, with my opinions, I'm, like, convicted, and...
imprisoned, really.
Yeah, and quarantined. I'm in quarantine with my opinions. I can be. But that's something that I have really admired about you, and something that I think that maybe we should elaborate on a little bit more, is that when people have opinions about other people, for example... I know that people have had opinions about you, and I've seen how you react to them, and my mouth drops because you don't take it to heart.
Well, it is and isn't true. Like, somebody says something to me or about me, or I hear that they have an opinion about me. My first thing is, yes, I take it to heart in the sense that I take it within myself. Like, whenever I hear anything about me, or, you're this or she's that, then I always look at, could that be true? Am I actually displaying this behavior here or there? And if it is, which I have to admit it rarely is, but sometimes yes, I instantly go and atone for that behavior, positive or negative, believe it or not. And most of the time, though, it doesn't ring a bell with me. So that means I don't hold an opinion about that, about myself, which means I have no identity attached to it. And so then I know that it truly has nothing to do with me, and that it is just a reflection, something that the person sees in me. Like the person sees some energy and projects whatever then that opinion is onto me. And I have then compassion for their imprison. Like, because Arik just said it so nicely. Like, if you're opinionated with a closed mind, like thinking your opinion is a fact, you're actually living in a prison.
Okay, you just dropped quite a few bombs there, actually, and it's very exciting because I do think at some point, maybe in another episode, we need to go over what this atonement is that you're talking about, and also how you can then look into and atone for good things as well. I mean, that's also very interesting. But what I kind of want to go into is, and if you're listening and you would like to hear more about those topics, please let us know so that we can kind of make a checklist and hit off certain topics. But what I want to go into right now is what I think is so interesting is how you let people stay in their quarantine of projection.
Yeah, because there's nothing I can do. I mean, if you are convinced that a certain thing is a certain way, then if I'm telling you it is not, we end up having a war, like a like a religious war or a civil war, or I am right and you are wrong kind of tug of war. And there are enough wars on this planet. I really have no intention to contribute.
Do you think those kinds of wars can also be unspoken?
Hell yeah, if I may say so. Because that's, a whole different level of projection that's like in the thoughts that then we have, and that they will be acted out one way or another. So at some point, some place, the war will show. But yes, it definitely can be happening on a non-physical level.
Also emotional.
Yes.
And then that's why sometimes when you're around certain people, you can just feel like this tension that doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
True. It's very interesting because, I think this letting people spin inside of their own quarantine quarantine of projections is a really interesting concept. But I do know at the same time that when it comes to me, and I start projecting onto you or onto other people, you definitely have my back. You do not let me get away with it. And I think this is also something that's interesting because it's kind of like case by case. You wouldn't point out that someone is projecting, from a state of clarity to just the lady at the bakery, right?
Even though I've been known to do such a thing.
Right, but so then it's case by case. It's not a general rule. It's because like I said, it's like I have been so impressed by how you handle people with their arrows coming at you. I see it all the time. God forbid, and it's just to me, it's really just show how you display these hearts and they turn into lotus flowers. Like I said, my mouth drops, and I think this is so interesting that we're talking about this because we're actually recording now during the month of Aries, which is the archetype of war.
Well, thanks for elaborating on that, because for me it's just very clear, to say what you just said in different words would be, yes, when I point out this projection to the lady at the bakery, that means for that moment I enter into an intimate relationship with her. And nobody can, I don't think so, or should for that matter, think that they can have intimate relationships with the whole world. Now, of course, you being my husband, you're my most intimate relationship of all, so hell no, I'm not going to let you get away with some odd projections, whether they are onto me or onto anybody in our environment, because we are in the same boat, so to speak. So your projections become mine, because if you project, then you don't feel good. You have said it yourself. You feel like you're convicted and you're in jail. Guess what happens when the husband ain't feeling good? the wives are gonna suffer. So it's in a way very selfish for me to point out, hey, your energy level just dropped because you just have this odd projection onto somebody. Maybe it would be beneficial for all of us if you could look into it and take responsibility, if I may drop another bomb for another future podcast.
Yeah, because when you say like selfish, it sounds more like self-responsible. And yeah, I can absolutely attest to all of that. Like, I do not feel good when I judge others. And I guess what I have experienced is that when you do project, you start to create like a reality.
Yes, because all reality is created by our projections into the quantum field or the 0-point field.
Now, if someone then is projecting onto you and you don't want that reality to be created, what's the best way to avoid that?
Just to know that it's their reality and not mine.
Let them spin.
Let them spin in their reality.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
so you have to make that declaration within yourself.
Yes.
And not necessarily to them.
Exactly. And it starts to become dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I said that then your projections become my projections, is when, the lower the energy level is, the less I will be able to discriminate, which is like another relationship thing, ruled by the lover's archetype.
Mm-hmm.
Because I then lose my clarity, and then I think I am what's being projected onto me. And so this is how everybody's energy is spiraling down and nobody is helped. So I have a duty as a human being to keep my energy as high as possible. And when I do that, then there is no problem. Then I can always clearly see that's a projection coming onto me and has nothing to do with me abiding by the rules that I laid out in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yes? And then I will not participate in that. If I do it by choice. And I know this... Some of you may project onto me that I'm conceited and, hey, I'm going to deal with it as it comes flying at me. However, like, my reality is a marvelously beautiful, magical reality. Always has been. And then sometimes, if you look at it like a bubble, I always thought, my personal reality is like a bubble. And I live in this bubble, and then... sometimes I go and meet with other bubbles. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like, when you blow soap bubbles and they come together and then they become like one big bubble.
Right.
That would be ideal, that we are all eventually become like one big bubble. But as it is, boundaries are still important to most people so that they can act out their opinions.
It's really interesting that you say that because we just last night watched The Wizard of Oz, and well, not the original, but the Return to Oz with James Franco and Michelle Williams, and Glinda, the good witch. Her power was light, but she did bubbles for show. Mm-hmm. Right? It's very interesting, and how she had this protective bubble around her castle, mm-hmm. but it got penetrated by the evil, wicked witch of the West, right? Mm-hmm. She was the wicked witch of the West already, or the East. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But either way, it's like sometimes, though, then those bubbles can be penetrated. And I feel like when that happens, you're still able to just handle those energies without going to war. Because you are doing the spiritual inner war within yourself all the time, so that therefore, there are no external wars that you cannot conquer.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, that's for sure. But like in the movie, that's really true. And it was, I don't know, East or West or whatever, but she's the one who is love and then turns to hatred.
Yeah.
And so then, of course,
it's a really good movie, by the way.
Like that hatred, when it flies towards me, I sometimes feel it physically.
Right. I've seen that.
I mean, I really, and then I need help. Like if it's really, really strong, like a massive, massive attack of hatred, then I feel it physical. I mean, it's like sometimes I feel like, oh my God, my heart stops now, and it's like, no, 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 I'm okay, I'm okay. And then, everybody who loves me actually feels that too, whether it's you next to me seeing it or whether it's, a friend I have on the other side of the planet who then all of a sudden says, oh my God, something's happened to Aurelia, shields up or something like that. So that is true. But the end effect is always turning that hatred back into love. Like having, how should I say, having the greatest compassion for the greatest hater.
Wow,
because it's their hell.
Well, that's really beautiful, and we're going to pick up on that after this short break and elaborate more on how we can do that, because I think it's really important that we do that in these times, especially now with COVID-19.
Okay.
"100% pure essential oil synergies since 1991, brought to you by Aurelia Essential Oils, is the sponsor for this podcast. Please check out Aurelia Essential Oils on Instagram or aureliaessentialoils.com. So we are back here, Arik and Aurelia.
Hi.
And we are talking about letting people spin into their ideas and projections of reality. And we were just about to get into about what's going on with COVID-19 and how love is the most important thing to counter the hatred that can be just sometimes, God forbid, breathtaking. And as an astrologer, because I've been, looking at a lot of the charts, it's vital that we as a collective, that we shift out of this reality, that we need to do our part, because of course there's a lot of movements and stuff about creating your reality and having a vision board and manifesting your reality. But this is something that we've manifested too. As a collective, every single country is affected by this. So I think this is something also that we can shift out of, and that we need to do it with the power of love.
Yeah, there is no other power. It's like I said before the break, our projections and our ideas, our closed-minded, narrow-minded opinions that we do not allow to change, where, we're not veering 1 inch left or right, but this is what I see, this is what I know, and this is the truth. This got us where we are because this lowered our vibration, and we all know it. Our immune system is working at its best when our vibration is high.
Yeah, because otherwise then the universe is just having us spin in our own reality.
That's a funny thought.
Right? Because it's funny, but it's also kind of true. Unless we want to be courageous and say, hey, you know what? Tell me what's wrong with me, Like, tell me what I need to work on. That's why we offer life coaching, by the way, because not everybody wants that. Or anybody who's really serious about working on themselves,
Well, yes and no, because, of course, what you say is totally true. However, on the other hand...
I love those howevers.
I have to say that the collective is a far cry from understanding that they are co-creators, and as co-creators, they have to take responsibility. And this is even with all the people that call themselves, the New Age movement, like where they think they know everything about everything and how to create reality and how to this and how to that. And, they do know it, but this is the age of Aquarius. We can know everything. Knowing that this is an apple and then taking it and eating it and experiencing it, like we all agree, two totally different things. And this is a little bit like it because, even if I know how everything works and I do not do the first step of being self-responsible for my actions, nothing will change. It will always be a hit and miss.
It's really interesting that you say that, because one of the consequences of the quarantine has been pretty much studying from home, studying online, which on one hand I think is great, but on the other hand, I can see how it's one of the side effects is exactly what you're saying. Just acquiring more knowledge, acquiring more information without really having to put anything into effect. I mean, how can you if you are at home? I mean, of course, it's not true for every subject, but especially for spiritual things, I can see how this would be one of the downsides. And of course, this is up to each person individually how they apply it. But more information is going to be made easily available.
I don't know that this is entirely correct, because if I think that, now there are maybe 5 people listening to our podcast, and, 4 of those people go like, that's interesting. I didn't know that about the self-responsibility. I didn't know that about, looking at myself first. I didn't know that about, having compassion for others' ignorance. And then they have nothing better to do because they are cloistered at home. And so let's say they do not just move on to the next Netflix flicks, but they actually do take the time and contemplate what they have now known, like this new knowledge. Then this is actually on a spiritual level already putting that knowledge into action, because as you were the one stating it in the first part of our podcast, that, all these projections, they also are acted out in thoughts. They are. And if then everybody who is now just sitting at home stop acting out in thoughts, because, you can sit at home and obsess about, I'm sorry to say so, Mr. Trump, the president, and just hate everything he does. That's still hatred flying around. This is like no different as if you stand there and say it to his face.
Right, and that's exactly what, we need to work on as a collective, is all this evil thoughts and evil speech that have really begun to really take its toll. I mean, I feel like the media has, put the president on the back burner, or even just like the focus has really not so much on the antics and the tweets. I mean, in good old Gemini fashion, I mean, he's a Gemini, he's tweeting like crazy, but I feel like it's more on the COVID-19 now. However, I do still see a lot of hateful posts and hateful articles about, just criticizing how he's handled it and whatnot. And I'm not political, I'm spiritual. I don't take one side or another. I'm just talking about the hatred that's being released.
Exactly. And this is exactly what we say. This has to stop, and you can do that from, a location within your 4 walls, because hatred is within the hater. It really has nothing to do on which wall they project it. And, this in the old days, like spiritual masters would go into a cave for a couple of years or whatever, so that they knew that whatever would come up in their mind was their projection, because nothing and nobody was there to trigger them other than the hatred and ignorance within themselves. And so, no, we can do a lot now, especially now that we are quarantined.
And then I guess we're coming full circle in a way, because that's what you said in the beginning, that to the extent where really it's about you take it to heart. Whatever you see in somebody else, you do look within yourself and see if it's triggering you or not. Sometimes you don't even need to look inside yourself, because it's just very evident that it's triggering you. But I guess what I also feel is that, because I experience many emotions throughout the course of a day. I guess you could say I'm like, I don't know, the Romulan seeking to become Vulcan. But what I understand is that if we talk about intolerance, right, that I have seen in my healing practice, and I know that from my healing work with research and understanding about that intolerance is actually the cause of cancer.
Wow, I didn't know that, but makes total sense to me.
And what I find so interesting is that if you have intolerance for another person, even if it's just, casual intolerance or to outright intolerance, like God forbid, like someone's racist or something, then really you have intolerance for yourself, because this is a reflection of yourself that you just cannot bear to accept.
That is entirely true. And here, yes, we are coming full circle, because how do we get, like, what is called John Doe to understand that he's responsible for his own triggers? This, I think, is the greatest task any spiritual teacher has, to get their students to understand that, like, this is within you, and this is where you have to resolve it. I mean, from my teaching practice, when I was still doing that, and I would see people, and it was often like that. Let's say two friends, like two BFFs. All of a sudden, the one is doing something the other one can't stand. And so then I know them both, okay? So then one comes to me and says, yeah, but she did this and this and that. I said, yes, this may be. However, your trigger is yours. No, but she did this and this and that. And I said, yeah, I deal with that with her on her time.
Right.
Don't waste your time telling me what she did or didn't do.
Right.
Your time is better spent to see, why are you so triggered?
Exactly.
And I swear, I would make a fortune trying to get people to see,
take self-responsibility,
that it's about that.
Well, because we are humankind is a society of blamers.
Yes.
It's not about looking into the mirror. It's about looking through the binoculars.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
actually, I feel that it's. I have a funny story. Actually, this morning I was walking the fur baby. We have a beautiful Shiba Inu. Her name is Seiya, and she's with us right now. Actually, by the way, and I was walking her, and I saw somebody who I had not seen in years, and it was on accident. It was from far away, and he saw me. The person saw me, and he screamed, turned around, and ran in the other direction.
That's intense.
I had never seen anything like that. I swear to God, it was like something out of an anime, like Studio Ghibli, or out of Legend of Zelda or something, like one of these village people. It was outrageous, and the habit of always being more and more self-reflective. As this person would pop up in my reality years ago, randomly, he represented to me the victim and the blamer, and some other things as well that I don't need to get into. And I did work on myself to really eliminate this reflection in my reality. Side note, the best way to get rid of somebody, if you don't want them in your world, change yourself. The best way to change others is to change yourself. So then he dropped off. And then this morning he popped in, and then he turned around and he ran, and he screamed, really screamed like a schoolgirl. Like, I am not even kidding. I had never seen anything like that in my life.
Too bad I was still sleeping. I would have loved to see that.
And so I thought to myself, wonderful. This identity is scared of me.
Wow. I love to hear that.
That it just popped up because, COVID-19, and there's a lot of chaos. We have some interesting transits. Jupiter conjunct Pluto. So, of course, some weird things might resurrect. And there it was, ran away screaming. Now, that person, of course, has his own consensus reality. And clearly he's not taking responsibility for whatever I'm reflecting back within him. He's running away from it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, God forbid, I don't want to say it's an intolerance, but I think this is right, an example of what you're saying, trying to get people to take responsibility for themselves and to not just run away screaming or to start throwing rocks, blaming.
Beautiful. Yes. 100%. Mm-hmm. And this is really amazing an amazing example to see how reality always reflects our state of mind.
Yeah.
And we may try to ignore that and we may try to deny that, but it still is true.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think we've given you guys a lot to think about, and if anything perhaps triggered you, you can go ahead and look within yourself, especially during these times of quarantine and beyond, because even once we somehow muddle through this COVID-19 pandemic, it's always good to take care of our reality and take care of our, triggers. And any other topics that you would like us to talk about, please send an email to answers@arikxander.com, ARIKXANDER.com. And please stay safe out there. And this has been Arik
and Aurelia.
And we will talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.